What happens when personal crises strike? Friends, this is a question I would ask myself when 3 years later, having been hit by my own series of personal crises, I found myself struggling, suffering, and equally confused with what I should do next. 3 years was a long time, and I suffered because I didn't really had the right approach, a method which could have had saved me from the long-term consequences that I was facing at the moment. So I've designed this seminar to help you and walk you through a real life case study, which will not only bring in awareness of how personal crises impact us, but it would also offer you some great insights, tips and techniques that you could use. Along with that, a long-term plan and a support network that you need to find your clarity and direction if at all you're reeling under a personal crisis. So I bring to you with the story of Raima. She's very, very similar to the way I was perhaps many years ago. So here's Raima for you, and she's an excellent performer, a girl with a lot of creativity, intelligence. I mean, she's also a very good leader to her teammates. However, right now, she's in a mess, a deep mess. It all started when I and Raima spoke. She signed up for my consultation call, which is usually an hour discovery call, we coaches call it. And in that, while we spoke, I put her across to some questions. So it turns out this is Raima's story in a brief snapshot. The time when Raima came in for this coaching assignment, she was reeling under a bit of personal loss. Out of the three siblings, she lost her elder brother. And along with that, simultaneously, there was a property dispute with her other siblings that she was into conflict with. It was a time of utter chaos because Raima was an emotionally very sensitive individual. And in her growing up years, she has had a great support from her elder brother, who she just lost in an accident a week ago. Alongside being a good performer and an excellent leader, she was deployed onto a project at the same time into a very critical role. So this was one of a very high stake project that she was assigned to. And it was at the same time that she was reeling under personal crisis beyond her control. As a result of this, this is what Raima was right now exhibiting in her behavior. And this is precisely the reason why she turned in to seek support from me. Despite being an excellent performer, she was very low on productivity. She felt she would just go to the office, while away her time, and come back. She was present in the office, but her mind was completely absent and blank. As I mentioned earlier, she was deployed on a very critical project, but despite that, her engagement levels with her role, her job, her team, the delivery, none of it either excited her nor was she engaged the way she used to be. Of late, she even had grown a lot of dissatisfaction with her work. Along with this, She was suffering from a lot of fatigue and unexplained aches in her body. She was actually on the brink of destroying her career big time. When we started coaching together, after a call when Raima said she really wanted to embark with me on the journey of self, this is how we went along. This was the point when crisis strikes. And as we moved ahead into this whole thing, we began with, I call this mumble jumble, meaning a phase where Raima was, and most of us are when we go through a personal crisis. It's chaotic, all messed up, too many things happening at the same time, no focus at work, our productivity dips. We just don't know what we are into, what we want to do next. It's a state of utter confusion and chaos. The most important point here that you should make a note of, Raima, or maybe anyone else in her place, and as I recollect, as I speak with you, my own state of mind, this is a phase, friends, where we just cannot articulate what's wrong. It's very difficult to put a finger on what's really wrong. And that's exactly where Raima was. So the next step when she embarked with me on the journey of self was to help Raima understand what's most impacted. I pick this up because I believe when we are in a state of utter chaos and confusion, the first step is to first separate what's important from the less important so that we understand what's really getting most impacted. We may not be able to control the entire chaos, but we at least get a view of what's really is completely getting into the radar. So I started with this sessions with Raima, and there are a couple of tools I used with her. Some of it are very common. Some of them are psychology tools, which help us help others figure out within their own life what's really is getting impacted. Now, each one of us have our own value system, what's really important to us. Our lives are unique. They have their own ups and downs. And we as individuals also have our own ways of responding to issues in life. Some of us are very resilient, some of us are not at all. Raima was somewhere in the middle, and these tools help Raima to actually figure out if we divide herself into health, her mental health, her life, her family, her relationships, and her career, including the financial part, which was getting the most impacted. Then, as the next steps, we would probe deeper. This is basically we are probing deeper into what's most impacted because this is where it all stems from. At this phase, together, me and Raima, we decided when we probed deeper, there were not many more truths that surfaced up. What should be the next steps that Raima should work on so that we save her from the most impacted part? This is, friends, this is where the rubber hits the road. This is where Raima got to do some real good things, some profound changes, and all of that in a practical way, which eventually led her to find her clarity and direction in the mess that she was in. So, having passed through this phase of mumble jumble where Rima shared with me over a period of 3 sessions the entire narrative of what really has pushed her into this deep crisis. It turns out from this we discern and figured out what's most impacted. And of all the areas of Rima's life, her career was taking a major setback. She was actually on the verge of losing everything she has built over this period of 12 plus years. This is a competitive world, and none of us are like not replaceable. If we leave our firms, we may easily be allowed to go and even being replaced in a matter of few days, regardless of how competent or how skillful we are. Rima, in her crisis, had been so emotionally broken into a deep emotional distress that it got to show up in her workplace the most. And that's where her behaviors, her actions, her performance was the most impacted, which eventually led to this career disruption. When we probe deeper on this, because since now her career was at stake, it turns out that in some of the very, very critical key client meetings, managing stakeholders, or using tact specifically on the delivery part and managing conflicts within the team, Rima was failing big time. Her non engagement, her laid back behavior, her own conflicts with her colleagues, being a little snappy and a little aloof and isolated, brought her to the limelight of almost everyone, including her clients, living miles away from her organization. Her work manifested her stress. Even though she was on the job doing things as they are required to be done, Rima's behavior, her subconscious mind, her constant conflicts inside, the demons she was fighting, the chaos that she was in, the crisis that she couldn't find a way out, everything was showing up in her disinterest in the meetings, her overall posture, her low energy levels. She comes across as someone who's just dragged to office, not interested, snappy, judgmental, with a negative perspective and not really being able to contribute the way she used to. This brought her to some serious feedback from her supervisors, and she was literally not about losing her job, but perhaps losing her track record she worked so hard to build on. Her own personal brand was at stake. As next steps, together, myself and Rima, I assisted her first create an individual plan, because we need to also understand here, friends, that a personal crisis can play havoc with us, and despite our best of abilities that we bring into our careers, it can often be the reason why our careers may derail. So at an individual level, there are certain things we need to understand in sync with our identity as a profession. I helped Rima through some selective tools to work on this particular plan so that she understands how she sees herself in the now And also at her next level, like for example, if Raima would take some time to heal, next year, by the time she is being through a appraisal or being through a milestone year, how would she like herself to be viewed by her senior employees, her clients, and her major stakeholders? Not as someone who's dragging herself to the office, but as someone who has delivered as expected, but at the same time was matured and resilient enough to deal with her crisis and her job demands in a more effective way. So this individual plan and next level plan was more to sink in Raima with what she really wanted at this point in time, how much she can take on her plate, what is it that she needs to do, if at all she was ambitious to about the next level, or if she was not. In most cases, people are not, and it was the same in Raima as well. She was not really interested in just jumping to some other levels. Rather, she first wanted to have not her performance dip any further, not her professional identity get any negative remarks. Instead, she could perform at an optimal level so that she solves her crisis, heal through, and then maybe over a period of time, when she finds herself mentally and physically prepared, she can take on more responsibilities. So that's exactly what this plan was all about. And also the ways and methods, including the time for her to heal. This is something that I gave her in our next steps ahead. So this is a blueprint, and along with it, there's a timeline and what all that she needs to do. This is our final step into our coaching assignment. It's called Get into Action. So this is basically just doing things. And this involves sometimes developing new habits, letting go of other old habits, adding new perspective and letting go of some limiting beliefs, clearing our beliefs, changing perspectives, or adapting a new mindset. Now, this might sound very, very subjective, but how we really do it practically? It's not possible to use some one tool to do it. It's actually very, very individual, and that's the same way I built it in my coaching assignments as well. In case of Raima, considering her highly sensitive and emotional self that she was in, there were some very powerful tools to help her first raise her emotional quotient, which is make her a little bit more emotionally intelligent. And to do so, there were many other subsets of tools that she would need to first understand and tap into her own self, which then help her understand what is she tolerating, what is it that she can bear, what is important to her, and what can she do next when she finds herself in similar situations. Along with this, the practice here is not just of um, a particular tool. Instead, it's a daily few minutes assigned, including some self-care strategies, which involve meditations, affirmations, visualizations, and a practical way of being more mindful. They were close to around, I guess, 12 specific tools that I gave Raima to help her in this given thing. And that's how she was able to practice them and attain her clarity and direction. Present day today, Raima is confident. She has learned, she's now, I should say, in simple words, more emotionally intelligent. She's learned to let go. Her healing is ongoing because personal loss, specific to her elder brother, is not something that it's not a process. It's related to our more deeper self. So, I taught her the right way to process her grief, which is as unique as Raima is, or for that matter, anyone is. So that's an ongoing thing, but she has learned the right way of channeling complicated emotions when they all surface up, disrupting her work. Practicing is about, friends, doing this on an everyday basis. There's a lot Rima had learned, and she continues to do so even as on today. So, this is Rima for you, a more resilient one from a sensitive, emotional, on a verge of breakdown Rima to a more resilient and confident one who's happy in her present state. She's got no promotions, she's got no accolades or rewards so far, but she has also not let her crisis disrupt her journey the way it would have been had she not sought support. So, friends, just as this journey began when me and Rima, we spoke for the first time and she shared with me the entire narrative, and you saw the steps we took together and how she was able to really find her way out. I invite you to book your free coaching consultation call with me so that let's embark on a journey. Let's overcome your crisis and embrace a brighter tomorrow. Thank you. I look forward to meeting you in our call very shortly.